Okay, everybody, for today's lesson, we are going to be talking about the different selection tools and combining them into one artboard and basically looking at the different layers and blending modes. So here we go. Now I'm going to start with art and illustration, or you can start with photo, which is fine too. It's just giving us a basic size. So let's do just an 8 by 10, and we're going to do portrait. So let's create this. So here's our blank artboard. Now, what we could have done, we could have labeled it, but saving it as untitled is fine. And what we're going to be doing is we are actually going to be bringing pictures of fruits and vegetables from some stock pictures I have into our empty artboard. So let's start by looking at maybe, we'll start with this one. And I'm going to grab this line right here. So there's a couple different ways you can do this. So the first tool that you can use, and I'm just going to press Control plus to zoom in. The first tool you can use is a quick selection tool. So that's this tool right here. And you control the size of the brush up here at the top, but it's basically anything that you select, and this one was pretty easy because it has a white background, it will select. But if we look closely, it selected some of the stuff on the bottom that we don't like. So do you see how in the middle of my circle there's a plus sign? Well, we're going to change that to a minus sign to kind of paint back the things that we don't want, because I want just the bottom of the line. I don't need that shadow that goes with them. So I'm going to paint that back. Okay, and I'm going to check the rest of my edges, because for me it's always better if you do a good job the first time than having to go back and try to fix it later. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in to the top, and you can see them all the way up to the pixels because this photo isn't like the best quality, especially with us so zoomed in. Okay, and I'm going to brush out the top of the line. Turn my brush size down even more. Press Alt. Press Alt. Okay, and I'm going to zoom out to see how it looks. And it looks like we did a pretty good job. So I'm going to copy this. Okay, and I press Control C, or I can go up here to the top, edit copy. I'm going to go to my untitled slide, and I'm going to paste it. Okay, so there's my line. Now it's really small, so I'm going to transform this guy and make it a little bigger so we can see him a little bit better. Okay, so here he is. And you could see he was automatically put on layer 1. And I can change the name of that layer to reflect what I put there. So line in this case. Okay, the next thing that I'm going to grab is I'm going to grab this apple. So this time I'm going to use my magic wand tool. Now this magic wand tool selects everything of similar color. So I could select the green, and you see how it just selected like the green that it thought was the same. Or what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the white of the background. However, it just selected my background, and instead I want it to select just the fruit. So I can go to Select Inverse, and now just my fruit is selected. Except let's look at the bottom. What's going on at the bottom? Once again, it selected the shadow. So we can actually then go back and grab our quick selection tool, press Alt, and then paint it back so we get the fruit that we want. Okay, and I can smooth it out. Okay, and I'm going to look. Now, what's good about the Magic Wand tool is it makes your lines a lot cleaner. However, if you have any kind of background that blends with this, like say it was laying in the grass, it would be really hard to use your Magic Wand tool. So I'm going to copy it again, press Control C, go to my title page, press Control V, and I'm then going to do Control T, which is transform. So, or you can go over here to free transform, and it's the same thing. See, Control T is our shortcut key. Okay, so I'm going to hold Shift, and I'm going to make this apple bigger. Now I'm holding Shift because that constrains our proportions. If I didn't hold Shift, you see how I would skew my shape, and I don't want that. Okay, now can you see your lime? Probably not. It's because the lime's on the layer underneath. So we're going to do apple. And I'm just going to call this the green apple. That way, if I bring in another apple and it's red, I don't get them confused. But in order to see my lime, I'm going to have to move it out from behind the apple. Oop, hold on. Or just put it on top. So watch. Just drag your layer underneath. Go to my line. Now I can move it around. See? Ta-da! Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab another fruit. So what do we want to grab? Let's do the strawberry. So I could do something called, let me zoom out again. Okay, we're going to actually use the magnetic lasso tool this time. So let me zoom in. Now the magnetic lasso tool, you can click around the edge of something to get it to work, or because it's the magnetic lasso tool, you simply go around the edge and it's going to guess for you. And every time you click, you're going to lay down an anchor point. Now I'm just going to try to go through this quickly. You can see it didn't like going around that stem by the edge of the paper. Now if we were using our Wacom boards or our tablets, we could draw around this using our stylus. However, because we're not, we're just going to be using our mouse to click around it. Okay, and then you meet up. Do you see when that circle came? Okay, that means you're at your original mark and you need to click it to complete your shape. So if we look, there's the basic gist of our shape. Now, is it perfect? No, but once again, we can come in with our quick selection tool, change the size. Okay, zoom in and make any changes that we need to. So over here, there looks like we missed a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to press Control C. I'm going to go back to my entitled, Control V, and you can see that I put a strawberry on top, and I'm going to kind of label that layer a little differently now. Okay, so far we've gone through the quick selection tool, the magic wand tool, and our magnetic lasso tool. So those are all great options and reasonable options that you can use to bring, sorry, I'm just transforming these to make it over, to select and then bring your images onto a new artboard. Now, the next thing I want to show you just really quickly is because of these layers, okay, in order to see your objects, obviously you move your layers up and down. The other things you can do is you can change something called the blending mode. So right now this blending mode is set to normal. There are all of these other options that you could do that's going to change how it looks sitting on top of your other objects. So when you get a chance, just play with these. See how they look. They're great for, just bringing the color down. So this just brought the hue, the color. Okay, you could just bring the saturation, so the brightness. You could bring like a black and white version of it down. You could have it darken or multiply, so you get these kind of ghost shapes, which are really cool. Now, I set it back to normal so you can see the next thing you could do. Okay, so over here I'm going to double click on my strawberry. Okay, and it's going to give me something called the layer style. So we just looked at blending modes. Now we're going to look at the layer style. Okay, and once again I have my preview selected. Okay, and this is a way for you to add maybe a stroke. That's like an outline around your shape. So right now I'm outlining. Okay, I'm going to position it on the outside. And I'm going to have the option to maybe change the color in case I wanted it as a pink. Turn it into a gradient as an outline. To a pattern. There's all of these different options. Now, instead of stroke, maybe I want to do something like an outer glow. Okay, so if you go into outer glow, you can actually make your object look and appear to be glowing. So right now it's set to white. Let's put it into, I don't know, we'll do a pink so you can see it a little bit better. Okay, now it's see-through, but we're going to turn that down so you can see it even more. So you can make all of your objects glow once you bring it in. Okay, it could be soft, it could be precise, you could change the spread, you could change the size. There's all of these different options you have for creating something like an outer glow or an inner glow, so it glows more on the inside. So let me show you that. So do you see how all the edges now are glowing? So like the inside of the shape. You can make it look like it's beveled or embossed. Okay, so it looks like it's kind of 3D on that paper. You can give it a satin look. You can add a color overlay, which means do one of these blending modes to it just simply by itself so it's not affecting the other layers. You can do a gradient overlay. Same thing. These are all things that I think you should try and you should practice with until you're confident using them and knowing in which cases to use them as well. Okay, so we have covered how to bring things over. We have covered blending modes. We have covered layer styles. Just keep doing what you're doing and keep practicing.